All right, so I fell in love for the first time when I was 19, and there was no logical reason why I should be with this person. We had really different values, different interests, different goals, but that didn't stop us from dating for almost 2 years. And I think the reason that we were so different is because we came from really different families. So I come from a group of goofy liberals who throw birthday parties for their dogs. His family was strictly Catholic, and they loved hunting and Paul Ryan. And so there wasn't like a ton of overlap there. His name was Matt, by the way. I'm not going to bother changing his name because he's a white 20-something guy in Wisconsin named Matt. So you can try to figure out who that is. I'll give you $100. So like a lot of families in Wisconsin, Matt's family had a cabin up north, and this cabin was really important to him. It was the site of a lot of really impactful childhood memories, and his dream in life was to someday inherit the cabin and bring his own children there. So the second summer we were dating, when I got my first invitation to go to the cabin, I knew that it was a really big deal, and not just because it was this really emotionally important place for him, but because we would be spending the entire weekend with his parents. Now, I had met his parents before. We had spent like short snippets of time with each other, and they were two of the most terrifying people I have ever met. His mom is a literal Catholic school teacher, and his dad said 4 words to me the entire time that we were dating. But I was optimistic about this weekend. I felt like this was finally my opportunity to win them over, because we had been dating for over a year at this point, and I had not successfully won them over. But I was also a little bit naive. I didn't know very much about Wisconsin geography at the time. I knew about Milwaukee. I'd heard of Madison, but I had never been here. And everything else I just thought of as up north. So when he said that the cabin was up north, I assumed that meant it was like 2 hours away. But that was not right. We got into that car with his parents, and we did not get out of that car for a very long time. In fact, it took so long to get there that we didn't even get there on the first day. We had to stay at a hotel on the first night. That was my reaction as well. It wasn't until we were checking into this hotel that it started to dawn on me for the first time what I had really signed up for this weekend, because I heard the words "one-room reservation" come out of his dad's mouth. And I quickly jumped in and was like, I will pay for my own room. That seemed like a win-win for everyone. But I was informed that there was an event in this tiny Wisconsin town, and they had no additional rooms. So we opened the door to our one-room reservation, and there are 2 queen beds, and they are very close together. And then in the corner, there's like a dusty old cot. Because again, his parents are very conservative and didn't believe that it would be appropriate for Matt and I to sleep in the same bed because we weren't married. I restrained myself from pointing out to them that sleeping 2 feet from your boyfriend's scary parents is the best birth control I could think of. So as soon as I see this room, I feel like there is not enough air in here for all 4 of us. Like, I feel super claustrophobic. All of a sudden, the weekend is just looming so far ahead of me. But Matt says, hey, why don't we go down to the hotel pool? And I was like, yes, we've spent all day with your parents. We're apparently going to spend all night with your parents. I need a break. So we go down to the pool, and we're swimming around and we're talking, and I hear this sound that's like a chair being dragged across concrete. And I turn, and Matt's mom is pulling a pool chair all the way from the wall right up to the edge of the pool. And his dad is doing the same thing. And they did not have books. They did not have crosswords. They sat in those chairs, and they just watched us silently, listening to every word that we said. And like, we're in a public pool, so like, I'm not doing anything that I'm ashamed of, but it was still unnerving, right? It was like still a little bit weird. But I was like, you know what, it'll be fine, because tomorrow we're finally gonna get to this cabin, and there's gonna be so much space. That's the point of nature, right? There's so much space. So I was like, it'll be fine. So the next morning, we leave for the cabin. I slept great, by the way. Totally recommend sharing a bedroom with your significant other and their scary parents. And so we finally reached the cabin, and so I'm from suburbia. So when I hear cabin, I think like a Chip and Joanna Gaines cabin, right? I think like cozy vacation home. This was not a cabin like that. This was like a hunting cabin. This was like a room that you sleep in so you can wake up at 4 in the morning and go kill things. Like, this was like one of those cabins. This was a different definition of rustic than I had previously encountered. And so I step into this cabin, and guess how many bedrooms the cabin has? It is 1 bedroom. And I realize, I once again have this feeling of like all of the air sucked out of the room, and I realize that this situation is not any better than the situation I just left. And the weekend starts to feel longer. But then Matt says, hey, do you want to go fishing on the lake? And normally when people ask me if I want to go kill fish on a lake, I say no. But I looked over at the fishing boat, and it is this tiny little rowboat, and it is only big enough for 2 full-size humans. So I said yes, I would love to go fishing on the lake. So we get in the boat, and we row ourselves out to the middle of the lake. And by we, I mean he rows us out to the middle of the lake. And we're floating, and I look over, and the cabin is tiny, and his parents are just like these 2 tiny little figures on the horizon. And I finally feel like I can breathe again. Like, I feel like I can drop this facade of this like perfect little person I was trying to put up for his parents, and I can just like be myself again. And that lasted for 2 minutes. And then I heard a noise that was like water churning. And I turn, and his parents are on one of those little boats where you sit and you pedal, right? So his parents are pedaling furiously, and this was not a leisure ride. They are pedaling straight at us, just fixed on us, and they do not stop until they are right next to us and can hear every word that we say. And at that point, I almost screamed, because I'm like, okay, I can't even remember the last time I spent this much uninterrupted time with my own parents. Like, they let me sleep in a separate room when I visit, right? Like, we have boundaries. And it was also insulting, right? It's like, do you really think that little of me? Like, that I'm that horrible of an influence on your son that you don't even trust him to go out into a boat in the middle of the lake where you can see us? Like, it seemed a little excessive, right? I'm not that terrible of a person for your son to date. But I held it in. I didn't scream like I wanted to. But we get back to the land, and as we're climbing out of the boat, we see this little group of ducklings come like tottering out of the grass, and it's led by this mama duck, and she is marching proudly and sternly across the yard. And Matt's mom sees this, and she just melts. Like, she melts into a mom puddle. She pulls out her phone, and she's taking pictures. And it was pretty cute, so that wasn't like an unwarranted reaction. But as I'm watching Matt's mom melt over baby ducklings, it occurs to me that maybe I like misinterpreted what was going on. Like, what I interpreted as like very aggressive chaperoning could have been his parents' attempts to like spend time with us, to get to know me, to make me feel like I was included in this like family tradition and like the trip to the cabin and all of this stuff. And it's possible that they were starting to see me as part of their little gaggle of ducklings that they needed to lead confidently into the world and keep an eye on. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes we have to tell ourselves lies to get through challenging situations. Thank you.